How's everybody doing? I just wanted to document what I've found issues with on my 2010 GMC Yukon with the 5.3. I started out with a low oil pressure issue, and later that turned into a lifter tap and collapsed lifter. So I just wanted to go through and talk about some of the things that I did, what I found, and also things that you may be able to avoid without having to replace parts. So let's get to it. I'm going to turn this around, hopefully. And okay, so here's my vehicle. It's a 2010 GMC Yukon. It has roughly 8,700 or 87,000 rather, 87,595. Right now, you can probably hear that tapping, but the oil pressure is now at 40 at idle. And I'm pretty sure you can hear that really well. So I just wanted to talk through some of the issues and things that I found wrong, what it led me to, and what I've accomplished so far. So when I first started the issue, the tap wasn't there, and we had low oil pressure. The low oil pressure light came on, turn off engine, and so I went through and I checked the engine oil and the oil filter. So this is the oil filter that was in it from Jiffy Lube. I decided to go ahead and replace the oil filter, and that gave me some immediate oil pressure, and it was fine until the next day. But as you can see, the oil filter itself is fairly clean. No metal or anything else. I mean, it is a little bit brown, but it was just replaced probably a month ago. So I put a new oil filter in it, and the new one I put in was a Napa Gold filter. And so the next day I found the oil pressure low again, so I did some research and I found that this might be the culprit. So this is the little screen that goes directly underneath of the oil pressure sending unit. So this is the oil pressure sending unit, and as you can see, the old one looked like it was in pretty good shape, but I replaced it anyway just to be certain. And I don't know how well you can see the trash that's at the bottom of this screen. The hole that's in the screen right there by my thumb was when I used the pick to get the screen out, and I was able to, or I found out that you can just stick a bolt that's the right size right down inside of there and pull that without damaging the screen, and then you can clean the screen if you do find trash on it. So after finding the trash on it, I assumed that my issue was fixed, and the oil pressure went up, and the oil pressure was at about 20, and it would go up slightly when the RPMs would increase, but it didn't seem like it was normal like it was before, at around 40 at idle when it was cold, around 30 when it was warm. So everybody that I was seeing videos and chat rooms and forums saying that 20 psi is good, so I assumed it was good, and we drove it. Well, after about 15 minutes or 20 minutes of driving, then the lifter started ticking. So then I had to dig into it deeper, and thinking that the oil pump was bad, I decided to go ahead and replace the oil pump. Well, this is the part where I think it might be beneficial if you decide, or if you have this issue, in order to get to the oil pump, you have to remove the front cover. So that means you got to take everything off the front of the motor and remove the front cover, the harmonic balancer, and then the oil pump is attached to the front of the crankshaft. And so the other thought was, well, maybe there's trash down in the oil pan. And so I decided before I go and do the oil pump, I'll pull the oil pan. So I pulled the oil pan, and in this particular vehicle, it's a two-wheel drive, so I don't have near as much trouble because of 4x4 with the front axle. So I was able to remove this front cross member from underneath the oil pan and then unbolt the oil pan and remove it that way. The other thing that you have to remove is this tube off of the rack and pinion so that the front of the oil pan can come down a little bit. So what I found inside there, because the other issue that I'd read about was the oil pickup tube O-ring, where it goes into the oil pump going bad. Either has a cut in it, a tear, or it's gotten hard and brittle and cracked, and it's losing suction. So when I dropped the oil pan, what I found was that the bottom of the oil pickup tube was full of trash. So I cleaned the trash out and replaced the O-ring, put everything back together, and I put a new filter on it. Again, I still had about 20 psi, and I still had the lifter tick. So before what I should have done was check the oil galley. And in these particular motors, the oil galley, there is a threaded plug. This is on the front of the motor on the driver's side. This plug right here goes to the oil galley. And there's also a plug at the back of the motor. This plug is for coolant, and this plug is the rear oil galley plug that goes right up to where that oil pressure sensor is, right directly above the oil filter. So you have that plug in the back and this plug in the front. And what I did was I pulled those plugs out and I ran compressed air through to make sure that that passageway was clear. And I went back up to the oil pressure sending unit. I removed that, and I also put compressed air down through the top so that the oil or trash or anything else would come out that plug right there. Once I did that, I got oil pressure back up to 40 psi, but I did that after I replaced the oil pump, and I probably could have gotten away without replacing the pump had I not thought things through about the oil galley being clogged. Well, what I found the second time around was there was more trash in the screen, and so I cleaned that one out again. Now, the lifter tap is still pretty bad, and it's because of a collapsed lifter. In my case, is on the number 7 on the rear side of the driver's side of the engine. So I know I'm going to have to probably replace that lifter, which requires you to remove the cylinder head in order to fix a collapsed lifter, to the best of my knowledge so far, and I'm still learning. But I just wanted to share this stuff with you guys, and hopes that maybe it will help alleviate some of the issues. Maybe it'll make somebody's life a little bit easier. Hope this finds you well, and hope this was informative enough for you to be able to address your issues. Thanks, and have a great day.